Alright folks, so this is actually going to be at the beginning of the video opposed to the end, and the reason being is I just wanted to say a couple things before everyone gets started. So first, the reason you do this with the rear adjustable camber arm kits is because you lowered your car and your stock, these guys, aren't adjustable. As you can see right here, they're solid. So you'll always have some camber if you lower your car. So the fix is to install these rear camber arms. Now, how long did it take? It took me about 1 hour from start to finish. So watch this video, understand it, realize that you got 14 millimeter bolts, watch all the steps, ask the questions, and then get started, and you can do this in under an hour. In terms of difficulty, it's really a 1 out of 5. There's a couple sticking points. The main one is lining up these grommets after you take it out, and then just fiddling around with your threads. On the adjustable kits, or if you're replacing the OEM ones, you're done. You don't have to do anything. With that being said, as I said, it takes about an hour. 1 out of 5 wrenches on difficulty. Or no beer chugs and frustration. I'm all done. It's tough to see. I have a tiny bit of camber still, but I'm getting an alignment tomorrow, so I'm really not worried about it. So this will be definitely more than enough to drive. Everything's snugged up. All my lugs are tight. I'll bring it over to the shop early tomorrow. Ask for a printout before and after, see how I did. Get a full alignment, and then we're good. So good luck everyone. Hope you guys enjoy this video. First, you'll need a 19 millimeter. This guy will just break the nuts off your rims so you can get your wheels off. That's the only time you're going to need the 19. After that, you're going to be removing 3 bolts from each side. These are both 14 millimeter. So I have a ratcheting wrench. I also have just a 1/2 inch driver with a 14 on it. Both come in handy. Sometimes it's easier to use this guy. Sometimes it's easier to use that guy. The bolts are different on each side, but that's pretty much the gist of it. Alright, so I've already done the job. So these are what your OEM guys look like. So this end goes up into the body of the car, and then this part goes into the knuckle. So you got 2 bolts up on this side, both 14 millimeter, pretty easy to take out. You know, they might be torqued on there a little bit, so make sure you have an extension driver or something that you can add some torque to if you need to. And then you got a single 14 on this end. This guy's a little bit tough to line up, probably the toughest part of the job. Getting it out's easy, but getting the new one on takes a little bit of work. One pro tip I have for you guys is when you're getting it back on and you got it almost lined up, so you'll have your knuckle on both sides right here. And what I'll suggest is go ahead and once you get part of the knuckle on it, where you can get this little guy on it, so this is a 1/4 inch driver, you'll just pop it in where the knuckle's right here and it's through the knuckle, and then just torque it whichever way you need it. The grommets will make sure that it sticks on the knuckle, so most of the time you'll get stuck where it's like this and you really want it to be pretty center. So that's when you'll stick the maybe 1/4 inch socket extension, whatever you have on hand, just stick it through and then you can line it up. And then when you get it lined up just right, what will happen is you'll go, and then you can just drop your 14 millimeter bolt back in. If you get the adjustable arms, you'll need something like vice grips or whatever size the bolts are. So on mine, you adjust it about right here. There's a series of nuts that you'll tighten some or loosen some. Just make sure your threading is the same on each side. If you're planning to do the alignment yourself, please just go watch another video that just focuses on the alignment. If you're not planning to, just make sure they're pretty close. Take a picture before you take off your wheels to see how they sit on the ground. So, you know, maybe after you lowered your car, your camber is just a little bit like this. Maybe it's straight up, who knows. Make sure that when you drop your car back down, it's close, visually close. I'm about a mile away from where I'm going to get my alignment done, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'll go ahead and I'll adjust my alignment and at least get it within, reason where I can drive, and then I'll have the alignment done by the shop tomorrow. Alright guys, let's get started. These are from K-Tuned, masters of the K24 swap, but I decided they look like pretty good, so I'm going to go with them. One has what I imagine is an e-brake bracket. We'll find out when we install it. The other one does not have it, but yeah, we'll go from there. So let's get started. Alright, so before we jack up the car, we're going to go ahead and we're going to come over to the wheels and we're going to brake the lugs. That way when it's up in the air, it's easier to do. Even though the e-brake's on and they won't rotate, it's just easier to brake them when they're on the ground. So before you do this, make sure that on your front wheels you have something chalked on them so the car won't roll, because since your parking brakes are on the rear wheels and the front ones will spin, my garage has a tiny decline, so I don't want to roll them back towards us. So we'll go ahead and we'll put my Rhino ramps on the front wheels, break the lugs, and then we'll jack it up and take off the rear wheels. Alright, so now we got the wheels off. We got the car on jack stands. Make sure your jack is free, because what you're going to do is you're going to come up under here and right on where everything connects, right on the knuckle, you're going to support that, especially right after we take off these camber arms. Alright guys, so we pulled out this guy. It's a 14. He goes right in through here, and he goes right through the control arm, just like that. So when you release it, make sure, as I said, that your jack is underneath it, because it's going to fall down. And that's okay, because the top will rotate out. So you're going to camber. You're going to camber the crap out of your wheels, which is fine. Just make sure, as I said, that your jack is here. It might fall down a little bit, and it's a little tough to get this bolt in and out just because it does hold a decent amount of weight. But that's easy. Once you get it out, it just bounces like that. And then we got 2 more 14s back there in the back. You can see one right there behind my finger. So we'll go ahead and do that next. Alright guys, so I got the other one out. It's literally 3 bolts. So you got 2 14s that sit on the end like that. These bolts are actually upside down. They're supposed to go through like this. Boom. So we'll be using that same hardware on the new K-Tune piece. And then reuse your same 14. It's longer than the other 2. It's pretty easy to figure out which one it is. Alright, so we got the new arm in with the 2 14 bolts. I lined up pretty dang good the control arm, and then what we're going to do is we're gonna pull the arm down while lifting up the plate, and the grommets will just slide in, and you're going to have to jack it up a little bit. So you jack up the arm to raise the whole hub, and then you pull down on the arm to get it all lined up, and you're also going to have to push it forward a little bit. As you can see, it moves around, so it's a little bit of a balancing act. You got to, so if we're looking at the hub like this, right now it's like this, so we got to go up, we got to tilt it forward a little bit, and then we got to pull the arm down into it. As I said, it's a little bit of a balancing act, and it'll take you some time. This is the toughest part about it, but it's also straightforward. It's not like you're going to bust any bolts or anything like that. So just pop your 14 through this way, if you're on the driver's side, and then you're done with this side. And you might need to adjust your camber a little bit, but once you get it in there, that's pretty easy to do. Alright folks, so I just went ahead and put the last 14 in, and now I got my camber arm in, so you can see the new one glides back in there. So all that I got left to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then throw the wheels back on, lower it, and see how we did. Okay, so now we're on the passenger side, as you can see, and I have the front 14mm out, so we got it bouncing. Now the issue is that on these back 2 bolts, you got the exhaust right below it. So in order to get to them, you kind of got to go a bit of a weird angle. So on the left one, I got my 1/2 inch drive with a 14mm on it, and I can get about 2 swings on the bearings. And then on the other one, I just come right in through here, and I can get a couple swings on it. And I was able to break both. I could have thrown a PVC on the end of it, but really didn't have to. So now I'll just remove those 2. Gain them back in will be a little bit tough, but doable. So just keep wary that the exhaust parts are right here. And I think I lucked out because I don't see anywhere for that bracket. So really I could have thrown these on either arm. And it looks like they're interchangeable, so awesome, nailed it. Alright, so I'll go ahead and I'll swap that out. Alright guys, so here is the passenger side. We got our 14mm right on the knuckle right here. And then same as the last one, we got 1 and then 2 back there. Those ones are a little bit tougher to get in because you got your exhaust right here, so you can't get a straight bar up through. So that's when I use the ratcheting socket and then also the 1/2 inch driver. But it takes a little bit of time, but it's not particularly tough. If you get stuck here, just make sure that you use that screwdriver trick I told you about. And then also make sure that you have the same number of threads on this guy as you have on your other, or else your camber is going to be way out and that's not going to be safe to drive. Alright, so I got my wheel back on. We're looking pretty vertical before we drop it, which means we're going to have a little bit of camber when it actually hits the ground. So, that's how it looks like from the side. I took my picture earlier of it on the ground, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to move the jack stands, and then when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and compare it to my picture. If it's within reason of what the drop strings were, that won't be too bad, and that'll be enough to go drive to the shop tomorrow to get my alignment done. So let's see how we did. Now, the moment of truth. low. They're pretty much even with the wheel well, but we do have a pretty decent amount of camber. So what does that mean? That means that our nut wasn't showing enough threads. So 3 on the K-tuned really isn't enough. So while I'm here, I'm going to jack it back up. I'm going to probably move it to about 4.5 or 5 threads, and then that should be enough. So be right back. Alright, so we went ahead, and it's tough to see, but the wheel is off the ground right now. I have it jacked in the center. I've removed my raised areas. So I've done, on the K-tuned camber arms, I've done about 6 threads. 5 to 6. So let's go ahead. Let's see how we did. So far, so good. Let's watch the body keep going down. Okay. So far, looks pretty good. And on the side, it's tough to see, but we have almost exactly the same camber that we did when we lowered it. So that means 6 threads is a little bit less, or we still need a couple more after 6. Let's check the other side. So this one looks pretty good, but still we have a tiny bit of camber. But the good news is, since this is close enough, and I'm getting an alignment tomorrow, I'm going to get my money's worth. So I'm going to call this good.